Published 2003 EDT, the 7th of August 2017. Updated 2009 EDT, the 7th of August 2017. Jeremy Corbyn was denounced by his own MPs last night for refusing to withdraw his support for Venezuela's dictatorial regime. The Labour leader had been silent for weeks as President Nicolas Maduro launched a violent crackdown that cost the lives of 100 protesters. Finally speaking out about the chaos in Caracas, he offered limp words condemning the violence inflicted by all sides. Instead of specifically criticizing Maduro, for whom he has been a long-standing cheerleader, he claimed it was important to recognize his effective and serious attempts to reduce poverty and improve literacy. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn refused to withdraw his support for Venezuela's dictatorial regime. Labour MPs and human rights organizations said Mr. Corbyn should have gone much further to condemn the incarceration of thousands of opposition politicians and activists. The regime's mishandling of the economy in the oil-rich country has led to shortages of basic goods and inflation of more than 700%. Veteran Labour MP Frank Field led the criticism of Mr. Corbyn, saying voters in this country expect future prime ministers to be robust in defending the independence of the judiciary, respect for human rights and a parliamentary process. John Speller, a former Labour minister, called on Mr. Corbyn to unequivocally recognize the failure of the Maduro regime. Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves, yet its incompetent regime has created a national catastrophe of rampant hyperinflation and a chronic shortage of basic household necessities, even toilet paper, he said. We should be clearly on the side of Venezuelan freedom and should be calling for respect for the clear mandate of the freely elected National Assembly and the freeing of all political prisoners. That should be the position of the Labour Party. Labour MPs said Mr. Corbyn should have gone much further to condemn the incarceration of thousands of opposition politicians and activists. Angela Smith, a Labour member of the new all-party parliamentary group on Venezuela with Mr. Speller, said it is right that Jeremy should condemn violence on all sides, but he needs to go further. The important question is whether democracy can survive in Venezuela, given recent actions of Maduro's government. Corbyn needs to make it clear he is on the side of democracy. Fellow Labour MP Chris Bryant tweeted, "I just don't see how people on the left defend Maduro." Alan Hogarth of Amnesty International said Mr. Maduro must bring an immediate end to state-sponsored violence and human rights abuses making so many people's lives a misery in Venezuela. We hope Jeremy Corbyn and leaders of all political parties will use their influence to urge him to do so. As a backbencher, Mr. Corbyn hailed former Venezuelan leader Hugo Chavez as an inspiration to all of us fighting back against austerity and neoliberal economics in Europe. What I condemn is the violence that's been done by any side, by all sides in Venezuela. Yesterday Venezuela gives every child a future, a school, a doctor, a chance at praising Maduro in 2015. There is an alternative to austerity and cuts, and enriching the richest and impoverishing the poorest, and it is called socialism in Venezuela in 2015. Huge contribution to conquering poverty and death of Chavez in 2013. Chavez showed us that there is a different and a better way of doing things. At vigil for leader, he supported parliamentary motions linked to the country, including one which congratulated Mr. Maduro on his election as president. Yesterday, as he returned to the campaign trail after refusing to comment on the crisis while on holiday in Croatia, Mr. Corbyn said, "I'm very sad at the lives that have been lost in Venezuela. The people who have died, either those on the streets or security forces that have been attacked by people on the street, all of those lives are terrible for the loss of them. There has to be a dialogue and a process that respects the independence of the judiciary and respects the human rights of all." Asked whether he condemned Maduro's actions, Mr. Corbyn said, "What I condemn is the violence that's been done by any side, by all sides, in all this. Violence is not going to solve the issue. The issues in Venezuela are partly structural because not enough has been done to diversify the economy away from oil. That has to be a priority for the future. But we also have to recognize that there have been effective and serious attempts at reducing poverty in Venezuela, improving literacy and improving the lives of many of the poorest people." Pressed on whether he regretted supporting Maduro when he was elected, he said, "I gave the support of many people around the world for the principle of a government that was dedicated towards reducing inequality and improving the life chances of the poorest." Theresa May joined the condemnation of Maduro yesterday. Her spokesman said, "Our view is that it is a tragedy that so many people have lost their lives in protests in Venezuela. We are clear that urgent action must be taken to stop the situation getting worse." The UK has repeatedly called on the Maduro government to work with the opposition, release political prisoners and show respect for democracy and human rights. Liberal Democrat leader Sir Vince Cable said it is absurd that the far left still see what is happening in Venezuela as some kind of role model for British politics.